Happy Wednesday. Yeah,
Um,
change the name. It still says Tad Dickman on the screen.
let's get started with Gary Smith.
Hey, Coach. Can you maybe overall kind of some broad sketches evaluate at midseason or a little bit past the rookies this year? Everybody obviously knows about James, his contributions. Jake, obviously, the last couple of games. CJ and Laviska, but are some guys out there that maybe aren't getting as much attention that you think have done pretty well on what you've asked of them?
Well, Ben Ellison, you know what I'm saying, the tight end, the free agent tight end that we have from North Dakota State. He's another guy that's come in and has done a nice job. As far as the tight end position. Just trying to think. I'm just so focused on the Pittsburgh stuff. It's hard, Gary. You know what I'm saying, to go back in there. I just think I just probably go through the roster, and it's hard to say those guys. Some guys they're progressing well, and but obviously it's not at a point where we can overcome some deficiencies as far as what our record is, obviously. So it's hard to go there right now. We're trying to figure out right now, how do we give ourselves an opportunity to be probably obviously right now the best team in the league coming in here.
Well, let me throw just a couple of names, and I know you mentioned Chris Claybrooks on Monday, so we have your action. But Costin and Ross Matrick, and then I know if Ross doesn't get any attention, it's probably a good thing. But Doug and Ross, how do you think they performed?
Yeah, I mean, Ross has been outstanding. I mean, like you said, I mean, he's done a great job. And that's a tough position to crack into. A lot of times, Joe D and Mal, and Joe D can probably expand more on it. A lot of times you don't, you don't usually go into a season without any preseason games, with someone that, hasn't been in those situations, because it can, you can wind up biting you in the butt, you go out there and do it. So, Ross has been, solid from that stance. And then, Doug had a really good camp, you're talking about Doug Costin. He played really well when, we gave him a couple snaps and his productivity looked good. So we wanted to give him more snaps, and the productivity went up, so we're happy with him. And then unfortunately he had the concussion. He was out, but he'll be back this week, so he'll be playing again. So, I just think that's something that we'll just keep monitoring how he goes. If he keeps going in the same direction, then, obviously he would be, someone that'd be pretty good.
Okay, thanks, Coach.
Sure. Sorry.
Thanks, Gary. We'll go to John Reed.
How you doing, Coach? Can you talk a little bit about the challenge that Pittsburgh defense, particularly their defensive front, presents to your offensive line, and also Brandon Linder going to play Sunday?
Yeah, we expect Brandon to play. He's actually going to go out there today and do some stuff, and normally it's his day off, so he'll get some work in today. We expect him to play. It's interesting. I think when you look at it, obviously you like to be able to control the ball, keep it away from their offense, which is obviously a high-scoring offense. But how do you do that? Do you running the ball against this front seven, which is probably the best front seven that we've played, this year. They're good at both levels, all around. And I'm just focusing on them. Obviously, their secondary is, very, playing very well. If you get yourself into a game where, you get behind, then they're going to eat you up. They're going to, you talk about, guys that can rush the passer both inside and outside. Guys that have been, hitting quarterbacks, sacking quarterbacks, doing all that stuff, and it can get ugly fast. So, you have to find a way to be able to control the tempo of the game offensively, where you're picking up first downs, you're keeping things manageable, you're keeping things where it's 50-50, run or pass, and what you're going to do, because there's no doubt and it's been shown for these past 9 games that they played that when teams do get behind, they get it's a big advantage, for them. So, they got guys that can, disrupt the passer. They got guys that can cover. And it's just difficult. I think when you play teams like this that, are playing extremely well, and have, excellent talent, you can get yourself, out of whack quick, and you just got to kind of stick with the plan and be able to execute.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, John. Go ahead, Jordan.
Hey, Coach. How's Laviska's hamstring doing, and is Doug Costin progressing through the concussion protocol?
Yeah, Doug is cleared of concussion protocol, so he's back at practice, so he's full. Laviska will be out today, and then we'll he'll do some work on the side, and then we'll see where he's at tomorrow. So we're still hopeful. We have him as questionable right now.
Thanks, Coach.
Sure.
Thanks, Jordan. We'll go to D-Rock.
Hey, Doug, were you at all concerned at the beginning of the year about how well James would be able to handle a big workload? And has he allayed those fears, obviously, or concerns to this point?
Yeah, I think you're concerned about a lot of young players that come into the league. You know what I'm saying? About, the type of workload, that they may or may not be able to handle. I think, it's a little, with James, it was a little bit going back and seeing how large of a workload he's always carried, from high school to college. So there's a little sense of, okay, that's okay. He's done this at all these levels, but, the question always comes, can you do it at this level, the top level? And I think that he's done a nice job. He's starting to get a little, like anyone that plays that position. We're halfway through the season, more than halfway through the season, and you start to get a little banged up. So, the key is, and he does a good job of taking care of his body and keep going. Obviously, it'd be a great challenge for him this week, along with the offensive line, the tight ends, all the people that are involved in the blocking scheme. Going against this defense, which seems like every time that I've played against them, their defense has always been solid, if not spectacular. I think this might be, out of all the years I played them, from going back to when I was with the Jets, probably, no disrespect for anyone else that played before, but this is probably the best front seven that I faced. And they've lost, a heck of a linebacker in Bush who was playing really well.
Well, with Laviska being limited and Thompson on IR, what are your plans to kind of give him a little bit of a rest there? How do you have to adjust to what you guys might want to do there?
Well, Devine will be back this week, so we'll see how he plays, and then we'll probably add someone, before the week's over, at that position. Whether it's on a roster or practice squad, a lot will depend on how Devine practices this week.
Thanks, Doug.
Sure.
Thanks, D-Rock. We'll head to Gene Fournette.
Hey, Doug. Could you just talk a little bit about, you've obviously lavished a lot of praise on the Steelers, and rightfully so, for them being unbeaten. But this franchise has traditionally played the Steelers tough throughout the series history. It doesn't matter how far back you want to go. Always played them tough. Even during your tenure, you guys have had some success against them. And even 2 years ago, even though you lost the game, the Steelers had to rally furiously in the fourth quarter to win that game. So could you talk a little bit about, what your team and this franchise has done to be able to go toe-to-toe with the Steelers virtually every time they play them?
Yeah, I don't, it's hard for me to go and look at, look at the past and all of that, different teams, different players, different coaches, all the different dynamics. But, I'm going to admit, you're right about that. And, sometimes, I don't know. Sometimes, I think in the past we've matched up pretty good. I think that, we've got, this is probably the largest difference, in the matchup, when, for us going against them. and I'm only speaking of the teams that I've been a part of here going against them. It's always tough. I think that I think the one thing Mike Tomlin has done a really good job. The one thing that shows out on film is not only do they have really good players, it's just the effort that they're playing with is outstanding. I mean, it's unbelievable. So, hopefully that plays into it, Gene. I mean, there's no one that wishes it more than that, and trying to get this game, in the fourth quarter and try to find a way to win the game and try to get takeaways and things like that. But, they'll come down here. They'll be ready to go. They got a lot at stake. You know what I'm saying? 9-0. They watched us play last week where, we played a tough game. We've got some turnovers. We've got a special teams play. So they'll be ready to go. So it's not, you're not going to, catch them or anything like that. It's not an issue with weather. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the weather will be fine. It's not going to be, 98 degrees and, hot as hell, which is, sometimes an advantage when you have those teams coming from up north coming down here. So, I just think that, sporadically it's been fortunate that the games have been tight, but, we've got a lot of challenges this week in all three phases that we play.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Next team, we'll head to John Shipley.
Hey, Coach. Big Ben's obviously having a really big season. What's your message to the secondary when it comes to facing him and all the weapons he has?
Try to keep everything in front of you and try to make sure there's no yards after the catch. I think that's the big thing. I think that he's having a great year. Probably, I don't know he's been around for so long now, but he's playing really at a really, really high level right now. It's interesting. I think that they're sixth in offense, but from an explosive play standpoint, they're not as high. So I think when you just look at that right off the bat, I think the first thing you think of is how well he's distributing the football, how well he's seeing the field, his accuracy. Again, this is back-to-back, weeks of going against guys that are probably going to be in the Hall of Fame, and that played a long time. That it's very difficult to defend because you're sitting there and you're trying to just picture yourself as someone that has seen a lot, that's very, very comfortable in the pocket, understands, what everyone's doing on the field, and then all of a sudden he knows what you're doing defensively, right away now, whatever you want to talk about, progressions, things like that nature. I mean, right away, where you're going with the football. Obviously has a strong arm. He's tough to bring down. Doesn't have the scramble ability like he had years ago, but that's normal. I mean, he can still, pick up a first down if he needed to, but he's very difficult to bring down. But, I would point out his accuracy. I mean, it's been lights out. I mean, when you go and you watch where he's placing the ball, especially against teams with man coverage, they've got a lot of crosses in there, guys going over the middle. They got, obviously if you, the one thing is if you make a mistake in coverage, and I think we saw that last week, he'll take advantage of you. You know what I'm saying? He can see the field. So it's not like he's running through the progressions. If something happens and someone thinks they're in, cover three and they're in too deep and someone's running down the seam free, which we saw in the Cincinnati game, he's just going to turn around and throw it. He's going to be able to get that guy the ball, So he's playing at a really high level right now. And, and they're playing with a lot of confidence.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Thank you, John. We'll head to Mark Long.
Hey, Doug, following up on that, is best receiving core you've seen, or maybe even the best in the league?
I don't think I've seen everyone. I think, a couple teams come to mind, but, they're playing. I mean, they're playing well. They got, the Claypool. He's big, he's strong, he's fast. He's hard to run with. He's really done a good job for a young player. I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster has always been solid, and what he can do. Ebron obviously has size, speed is a matchup problem. Juju is more of the, real precise route runner, good hands, good versus zone, good versus man. Claypool can run away from anyone, plus he's hard to bring down. He's tough, and you got a bunch of things going on, what they do with him. Then you got this other group, James Washington has made plays for him, another receiver that they have. And then obviously, you look at those four guys and the tight ends, and then, Vance McDonald, if he plays, they even become more dangerous, and what he can do. So, he has a lot of weapons, and their screen game, is outstanding, what they do. So, again, you're talking about a team that hasn't lost, so there's going to be a lot of positive things going on, and, it's going to be a lot of great challenges, and you have to defend a lot of things. They make you defend the whole field, and, and then, their running game, which, they're a physical team, but, it's a lot of guys out there. So, we're up for it. We feel good. We'll have a good plan. Then then obviously it's going to go out, going out and executing that plan. But they got a nice mixture of guys. You know what I'm saying, Mark? Size and speed, size and route running ability, flat speed, matchup problem at tight ends. If both of them play, it's even a tougher matchup, if McDonald Vance plays. But but that's why they're one of the top offenses.
Did you see some similarities in the draft between Chenault and Claypool? I think they were both, they're both big dudes, and both second-round draft picks.
Yeah, I think height, weight, and speed. You see that? You know what I'm saying? Yes, I would answer that question. Yes.
Thanks, Mark. We'll head over to Hayes.
Hey, Doug, how much responsibility are you comfortable with on putting on Jake Luton in terms of the pre-snap protection calls?
Yeah, comfortable with it. You have to, Hayes, you got to be able to do that. I mean, that's the number one thing that you're working on with quarterbacks, right off the bat after you get the formations and all the other stuff, because, that's the one person that can truly see the whole field for the whole duration of time, because as a center or anyone else, you become limited of what you can see. The receivers are on the outside, the running backs are looking at the front. He's the person that's trained to see the whole thing, and he knows where to go with the ball, and you want to make sure that there's a lot that goes into that as far as do you want to push the protection and fade away from the extra guy coming, to throw it. Hey, listen, do I need to change the protection? Can I beat someone with a throw? These are things that come from my experience, that come with, experience as you go along. Because there's checks, there's plays, there's so much that's on those guys' plate, on the quarterback's plate as they start to play. And I think that's why you're seeing that, some of these guys, can handle it extremely well. I mean, you look at the quarterbacks in the league, and I go back, you have, the two, one we played last week, the one we're playing this week, the others around the league, have been around a long time. No one's really been able to unseat them. So, and it's, I used to always tell the offensive lineman, like any position, there's going to be a point in everyone's career where all of a sudden their skill set's going to start to go down. And how do those players survive in a league? Well, one of the ways I used to always tell the offensive lineman, I said, listen, you're bigger than most guys, or you're faster than most guys, and you're this and that, but eventually you're going to start to slow down. So how are you going to win? How are you going to sustain yourself in this league? Well, technique, experience, those things come into play. So I think, as these quarterbacks progress and as they keep getting the information, as they learn from it and they're able to show that they can execute it, on the field, and that's what's going to keep people in the league, keep those types of guys in the league for a long period of time. I think, in these last 2 weeks, Aaron Rodgers last week and Ben this week, I think, we've seen guys that, that have just, progressively have gotten, better and better and better as it goes. And then when they get hot, and they can stay hot for a while. And I think right now, Ben's looks like he's pretty comfortable out there. I mean, that's the one thing that you see on the film. He seems, really in tune, really comfortable what he's doing. He doesn't, and I just remember, it's a little bit different than when I forget when I was with the Jets and we played him, but that was a long time ago.
Do you anticipate that because of how good the Steelers are at getting a free rusher, that you'll learn a lot about where Jake's skill set is in terms of identifying that stuff from Sunday's game?
I think you do that every week. I think, whenever you play, I think, you have such a small body of work. I think it takes a lot. It takes a lot to, a lot of times, sometimes it's just the game itself doesn't put you in all the situations that you need to be in, so, you're trying to evaluate that and trying to see, how much be able to learn from that and how you come back from that and, and then see what happens. So I think it's tough. I think skill set wise, you can see the skill set, but then, how you're producing, what I'm saying, and how your performance is, is going to be judged week by week. And, you really can't, you got to keep it going in an upward direction.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Hayes. We'll wrap up and go back to John Reed.
I forgot to ask you a follow-up question. Just what
Sure.
do you hope to see from Jawan Taylor and Cam Robinson going up against those ends from Pittsburgh?
Well, you want to see some confidence. I mean, everyone's a little bit different, whether it be me or Coach Warhop or the two players. I like to go ahead and mix up the sets on them. You know what I'm saying, and make sure that I'm not getting powered. Back into the quarterback. That's the one thing that I've always preached to the players when I was going in and trying to have, obviously, going with a plan and sticking with the plan. Sometimes you have a good plan and all of a sudden early on you get beat, and now all of a sudden you start reeling a little bit, then you start getting cautious. And I always felt that this is probably one of the worst sports where you can, you start using caution, what I'm saying? And try to bide yourself some time, especially when you're offensive lineman, by maybe backing up, to see what the player is doing. So, when I say you want to be aggressive, with your hands, and you want to be aggressive, being able to stop them, I think you have a better chance of winning, what I'm saying? Those down in and down out, than sitting there saying, oh my God, what's this guy going to do? Is he going to speed rush me? Is he going to bull rush me? Is he going to do this? Is he going to do that? You got to study them. And, my whole deal was, just make sure that, you can defeat the best move and his counter off it, and make it, if he's going to beat you, make him beat you with his third or fourth move. And I give those guys credit up front. Pittsburgh, they have multiple moves. So, there's probably a lot going in, but if you start thinking I'm going to defend power and he speeds, or I'm going to defend speed and he goes to power, that's where you see guys get themselves into a lot of trouble. Rather than saying, hey, I'm going to take this line right here, I'm going to meet him, and I'm going to get my hands on him, I'm going to stop him. So a lot of the way the game's played, in my opinion, has always been about the mindset. Day in and day, play in and play out, which is, you may think it's easy, but that's tough. You get beat or you win. You get overconfident. You think you know what he's doing. You've got to have an unbelievable mindset. And really, the best players that I've had, have always had have been able to play each and every play individually and have a great mindset to it. And most of those guys the guys that I've had have been very successful.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, John. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you again at 12:15 for Coach Gruden.
All right.